I want to talk about the importance of the Humanities department. But first, why Humanities? There are countless of other courses taught everywhere. All educators have the most stable and widely used platform in the world, which is a classroom. So what makes Humanities so special? A Humanities teacher is a million times more of an influencer than anyone on Instagram or TikTok. There's a certain power that comes with teaching Humanities, and with great power
comes great responsibility.
That's because they get to interact with their students on a much more personal level. They help them grow as a writer, as a thinker, and as a person. So, with that being said, let's get started. There is much more to growing as a writer than fixing grammatical errors. Here's a quote from Dr. DeSinger from episode 1 of the Writing Remix podcast.
And I think everyone expects the teacher or the writer and the philosopher and the person doing the languaging to be perfect in everything that they do, in the way they say it and in the way they're writing it. And that is not true at all, because we're all works in progress. And if there's one thing I learned about being a writer myself and just doing writing, is that I'm going to change over time. And so my writing's going to change, my ideas are going to change, and I am allowed to go back to those ideas and talk about that part of me versus like this other part of me now as like I move along in my journey. And I think students really feel sometimes scared that their work isn't perfect. And I think I'm like, it's okay, because when you go into your next writing class or your other classes, like you might have done stuff in this class that you're like, I would never do it like that again. I'm like, great, that's fine. That's the process, you know.
I feel this is incredibly well said. It's important that more people should remember this. I think the best part about writing is that the process is all up to the writer. It can be done in its own unique way. And I think a lot of the times people are told to write this way or to write that way. But what's important is making sure that the writing process is natural and that it's okay to change up the writing. We're all growing as writers. Something that stood out to me during episode 1 was said by Professor Stephanie Renée Payne, which was this.
I tell my students this in the process of writing that they're working on. You're going to learn about yourself and how you think about things in the course of this writing. Don't be afraid to shift. I even had a student a few years ago who told me he had taken a fairly conservative position. We were writing an ethics paper. And he, just with glee in the middle of the classroom, he said, I shifted my opinion. And I feel really good about it because I understand this better. And I understand myself better. I understand why I had the opinion that I had. And it's my dad's. It's not mine. But when I stepped into how I really thought about this, I realized that I thought about it differently. So
I could really relate to what was said here, especially now because of my WP1. I didn't know if I really wanted to write about film in my WP1 because I wasn't sure where I could go with that. But as I kept writing, and every time I opened up that document, I learned things about myself that I didn't know before. I could go into further details, but the video would be very long. But all in all, I put a lot of thought into myself and how I approach things because of Humanities. This is my most important point. Something that Humanities department does that is unique to them is how they're able to speak upon issues in society, such as racial injustice and police brutality. Teachers of Humanities have so much moral influence to the youth. They're able to use their voice for good, teaching students to always keep these issues in mind and be on the right side of justice. I think Dr. DeSinger is a great example of this, where we spoke upon Black at USC's most recent Instagram post. He voiced his thoughts on the matter, and it made me think about how important it is to acknowledge these issues in a classroom setting. You won't find interactions like these in any other classroom. It's really quite heroic in a sense that these teachers in the humanities are able to steer their youth in the right direction to life. I hope you can agree when I say that humanities is one of, if not the most, valuable subjects taught in school.